Today, I'm going to try to beat Hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Platinum with only Psychic-type Pokemon. Now, the Psychic-type may not quite be what it was in Gen 1, but that's a good thing if you're literally any other type. With that said, it's not to say it's a pushover by any means, especially, get it? Especially ESP? If you look at their average special attack and special defense stats. Gen 4 and particularly Platinum have an impressive variety of psychic types to work with, although since we don't allow legendaries we won't be able to use things like the Lake Trio or Cresselia. A damn shame too, Cresselia is one of my favorites. Let's see if we can beat Pokemon Platinum with only the first psychic type that we find on each route, no items in battle, level caps in place, and the battle mode on set at all times. And I myself may not be psychic, but I do know you're gonna love today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends, an epic game for mobile and PC with hundreds of champions to choose from, intense and strategic PvE and PvP content, and tactical upgrade systems too. Let me bring in my good friend and champion Death Knight to explain something new to Raid.
Professor Death Knight here with a lesson about Live Arena, the new PvP mode where you can fight against other players in real time. Sounds terrifying? Well, so's going to the dentist. You should still do it. Live Arena has a draft feature where you can pick and ban champions to fight for you. Teamwork! When you win matches, you'll get Live Arena crests towards unlocking special area bonuses, or so I hear. I'm too afraid to try any of this out. Alright class, any questions?
Yes, Mr. Death Knight, you suggested that people go to the dentist, and why don't you do that?
Why would you say that?
Okay, let's stay on topic. What kind of music are you gonna use for your entrance in Live Arena?
It's gotta be upbeat, high tempo, like a song that really pumps up the jam. Or one that gets you jiggy with it. Sorry, you know I'm like 1,000 years old, right?
Right, so no Nicki Minaj or Justin Bieber, I guess? Too modern?
That is 100% correct, sir.
Well, thank you, Death Knight, and as if Live Arena wasn't enough, Raid Call of the Arbiter is in full swing now. Raid's adding some of the new characters from the epic limited series as champions that you can play with in-game. The first one is Artak, a mighty orc warlord who's going to be available for everyone for free. Just log into Raid for 7 days between now and July 24th. If you've seen episode 1 of Call of the Arbiter, you'll definitely want this guy, and if you haven't seen it yet, well, I mean, what are you waiting for? New players use my link or scan the QR code right here and get a free starter pack with this cool in-game loot. Just hit my link in the description and I'll see you on the battlefield. Alright, here we go. It's time to take on Pokemon Platinum as a failed tarot card reader. Or something. Oh, hello, Barry. What? You're gonna find me 10 million if I'm late? Hold on, just let me steal a couple Apple Vision Pros. No, seriously, what the hell is that price tag? Alright, just a warning, this might not be the only mommy that we encounter on this run. Up ahead, we get to choose our starter, and none of them become a psychic type. However, I'm gonna choose Chimchar because this will give Barry an eventual part steel type, which should be the biggest challenge for us. Who's that guy, and what is he doing here?
My name is Troy. I have a basketball game tomorrow.
Grabbing the return TM from Professor Rowan has me realize this likely won't be very useful compared to most runs, as psychic types are usually special attackers. Also, whenever I hit up the route south of Sanjim Town, Route 219, people always comment saying that they never even knew it was there. No one expects Route 219.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
Upon finishing the dreadful capture tutorial, thanks Dawn, I've only ever caught 3 million Pokemon in the past 25 years, we get some Pokeballs, officially starting our run. Quickly arriving in Jubilife, we meet up with Dawn again, and that man, what is he doing? You don't want to know. Welcome to the downtown core of any major city in North America. Okay, I'm gonna do this because I'm a trained professional, but don't take any medication from a back alleyway, please. Now, a hugely unfortunate part about this run is that our first encounter would be available east of Jubilife on Route 218, but it's across the water, so we'll have to wait till we get surf. Another tricky part? Well, our first encounter is an Abra on Route 203, but if you're familiar with them, you'll know that they just have teleport, which in theory means if we don't catch it on the first ball, we lose the run. But I found a perfect plan, as Chimchar learns Taunt at level 9, which prevents the target from using any non-attacking moves, which includes teleport. This is still really nerve-wracking though, as Struggle gives Abra recoil damage, but with it at 1/3 health after throwing 4 Pokeballs, we catch it. Whew. Whew. I name her Karma, and she ends up having a neutral bashful nature, so no stat increases or decreases. Now, another problem arises in that Abra learns nothing but teleport until it evolves at level 16, past the current level cap. In theory, this makes this run impossible, but I came up with a bit of a creative solution. You see, if we head to Lake Verity with Pokemon Ruby inserted in the dual slot of our DS, this activates new encounters, with the one exception being that I had to check the National Dex event flag since you technically have to have it for this to work. The one encounter we can get with this method is a Solrock, which I catch and nickname Comet, and who also has a bashful nature. We're going to use Comet just until we can get an actual viable encounter. In no time we arrive in Orberg City, the location of the first gym, but before that I make sure to hit up one of the apartment buildings to grab a Dusk Ball from this girl, as I think they'll look great on a psychic type. Whoa, now that's a true alpha male. You got any online courses for sale, man? I want to be cool just like you. Speaking of which, it's time to face Mr. Chad himself, the first gym leader, Rourke, and... oh, I almost led with Abra since I was switch training her. He leads with a Geodude as I get Comet out there. Fortunately, Comet being part rock type lets us resist his rock attacks, and we have a special move in Confusion which does huge damage. Then he just uses Stealth Rock, which won't matter much as I don't anticipate having to switch into Abra, so after he heals, a couple more Confusions knock him down. In comes his Cranidos next, a bit of a bigger threat as Confusion does less than half before he lowers our defense with Leer. Another one hits him to the red, and then he hits us hard with super effective Pursuit, but we tank it just above half, and after he heals can hit him twice more for another KO. Whew. We also level up, which is allowed in Hardcore Nuzlocke, you just have to be at or below the level cap when the gym battle starts. And Confusion takes his Onyx below half, and then he merely hits a rock throw to bring us below half before another gets the job done and wins us badge number 1. Was a bit more dangerous than I was expecting, but overall Solrock's a great counter for that battle. Now, Professor Rowan, you must comply. I've gotta say, this sounds like the same kind of language that telephone scammers use.
Why are you leaving? Why are you leaving?
Man oh man, Stealth Rock TM from Rourke, and then the Rock Tomb TM here. If only we could keep Comet. But sorry buddy, you're an illegitimate child. Well, it's time for what I've been dreading, going nuts with switch training against Badoo and Starly for special attack and speed EVs respectively, but more importantly so that we can get Karma all the way to level 16, where she evolves into a Kadabra and learns Confusion. With that, we arrive in Floroma Town where we can get some much needed Oran Berries for recovery, and shortly after using them to take down a Galactic Grunt who had a Dark type Stunky, we have to deposit Comet. I'm gonna make a wish on a star that I see you again, my friend. Well, Karma, hope you're ready for a big challenge already, as we've got the Valley Windworks up next where Commander Mars is, and hopefully my precise EV training pulls off. She leads with a Zubat, which is easy enough for us, as with Kadabra's great power and speed, we can outspeed and take it down in one hit with a super effective Confusion. But in comes her ace, a fully evolved Purugly, which has super effective Feint Attack, which would devastate us in one hit. I'm hoping my plan works though, and the first part does, as she goes for Fake Out, which does big damage, but Karma has inner focus, meaning we can't flinch, and we hit her hard with Confusion. Her berry then brings her back up above half, but I'm hoping my range calcs were correct, as we now outspeed and hit her again, and just get the KO. Damn, that was close. Never thought inner focus would be that useful. It saved the run. The little girl we saved then says, "I think the balloon Pokemon will come visiting again."
Another one bites the dust.
Now, with only one Pokemon that we had to level up a lot to take on Mars, I make sure to be careful to avoid as many trainers as we can on the way to and through Eterna Forest, as we are getting awfully close to the level cap. Eventually, with Karma right at level 22, we arrive in Eterna City, and thank goodness, because this finally opens up some new encounters for us. First, we can head to Route 211, where there are a couple of options, but ours ends up being a Chingling, which I catch and nickname Phantom. Phantom's got a bold plus defense and minus attack nature, which is actually really good, and might I just add, it took 11 damn Pokeballs to catch this thing. No wonder no one's ever used one of these in the history of the world. Now you might not think it, but Mount Coronet is technically already accessible if you go further east, and in here we have two encounter possibilities, but it ends up being a Meditite, which I make sure to catch in a Dusk Ball and name Emma. Emma's got a lonely plus attack and minus defense nature, pretty good, and fortunately the Meditite line only has pure power in this gen, as there's nothing quite as useless as a telepathy Medicham. With some training under our belt, we can now hit up the second gym, the Pastoria City one, and Phantom with Uproar managed to do a reasonable job against the trainers, but Rosalia with Mega Drain did make things quite complicated at times, even though it's weak to Psychic. But Emma could come in and pick up the slack if needed, although Paralysis definitely wasn't helpful in that regard. When I was a wee child, it used to be the centerpiece of many festivals. That's such a boomer thing to say. Let me guess what's next. Nowadays, these young whippersnappers don't even have festivals. With the help of the Soothe Bell from Eterna Forest, tons of walking and waiting until nighttime, we can get Phantom to evolve into a Chimecho, which I think might be quite necessary for some extra bulk on our team. It's time for the second gym leader, Gardenia, the Grass-type specialist, and her team is actually more difficult for us than it might appear. She leads with a Turtwig, so I get Phantom out there and hit it with Confusion off the bat, which does less than half before she goes for Reflect. Another one hits, and it actually got the range to KO. I was kinda hoping she'd waste her potion there, but I guess that works. In comes Cherim next, which uses Safeguard, then we hit it to a third before getting hit with Magical Leaf for not too much damage. A couple more attacks do the job with us right around half health. In comes her ace though, Roserade. Yes, with part poison this thing is weak to us, but it's also incredibly powerful for this early in game, as Magical Leaf slams Phantom to the red before our berry, then Confusion does just over half, but her Citrus Berry heals her hugely. Well, I'm forced to switch here as I get Karma out, and Magical Leaf slams us below half instantly. Holy, that's some power. I thought we could have lived 2 of those. But realizing that Grass Knot would do less damage, I take a big risk and use Disable, and it works as she tried to go for Magical Leaf again. Yes, not too often you can outspeed Roserade at this point, but then I go for Confusion, and surprisingly, it does enough to take it down anyway, so we didn't have to worry. I do still think that was the safer play though, as that could have given us the opportunity to get Metatite out there just in case. 2 badges down, let's go. Sneaking around the Galactic building with Cut now, we can grab the Thief TM, which I think might just be even more critical than usual. Why, you might ask? Well, we have Commander Jupiter coming up, who has a Dark-type Skuntank with 70 power, stab, high critical hit ratio, Night Slash. Yup. So, I found myself in Mount Coronet trying to find wild Chinglings that I can use Thief on to get a particular item. Problem being, it's a 10% chance to find Chingling in here, and a 5% chance that it will have a Colbur Berry on it. Oh boy, at least the special attack EVs we get from them are good. Eventually, we find one with a Colbur Berry on it, but are you kidding me? Thief being a Dark-type move technically means it activates the Colbur Berry's effect before we can steal it from her. I have no words, none at all. After racking my brain for some way that we can make this work, an idea dawned on me, possibly one of my highest IQ moments ever. We're going to sort of bend a rule in that we need to bring Comet back momentarily, but not for a trainer battle of any kind, just to literally steal an item off a wild Pokemon, so to make this run possible, I'm gonna do it. You see, Solrock is the one singular Pokemon we can get that can learn a special move at level 31, Embargo. This makes the opposing Pokemon unable to use its held item. Problem is, yup, I have to find a 10% encounter, send Comet out, use Embargo, switch to Karma, and then use Thief hoping for the 5% chance item, and that's assuming Chingling doesn't use Wrap to lock Karma in, which happened a lot. After a 4-hour process, we finally got it. The Colbur Berry. It's go time. At the top of the tower, we run into our worst nightmare, Jupiter. Fortunately enough, like Mars, she leads with a Zubat, and with Karma having Psybeam now at level 24, we can decimate it immediately. But in comes the impossible Skuntank. Now, being a Dark-type, we would normally have no way of hitting it at all, but Karma has Miracle Eye, which we could use to make Dark-types able to be hit by Psychic moves. Then, we get hit by Night Slash, which the Colbur Berry weakens the power of. Now, we could use Disable here, however, it's only 80% accuracy in this game, so now I'm desperately praying that my calcs were right here with our EVs, and they were, as a now super effective Psybeam due to her poison type allows us to take that thing down and save the entire run. I can't believe we actually managed that. One of the biggest roadblocks we've probably ever faced, and we pulled through with sheer force of will. Wow. Ahead on Route 206, we can reach the hidden entrance of the Wayward Cave under the bridge. As a reward for the last battle, we can now grab a brand new encounter, a Bronzor that I named Martian. Martian has a plus attack and minus speed nature, which is absolutely perfect, especially given a particular move that I'll get later on. Picking up the Grip Claw along the way. Okay, the internet has completely ruined the word grip for me. Thanks guys. Only in Platinum we can also get the Earthquake TM. Quite a pickup. Making our way to the east, we arrive at Route 208, the location of yet another encounter. And ironically enough, there's one encounter here, but it gives us two possibilities in the end. Ralts. And ours ends up being female.
The prophecy is true.
Oh boy. I already know what kind of comments I'm gonna get, but anyway, I name her Jean and she has a naive plus speed and minus special defense nature, not bad. We then arrive in Hearthome City where the next gym is, and thankfully we don't have to make the treacherous journey all the way to Veilstone just to get the third gym badge, unlike in Diamond and Pearl. Seriously, that stretches like the longest out of any Pokemon game. Notably, there's also a new encounter here, even though you wouldn't think it, as Bebe has a gift for us, an Eevee which I named Nate and who has a timid plus speed and minus attack nature. Oh man, we're actually having fantastic nature luck in this run. That's a first. With some training under her belt, Jean evolves into a Curlia for some extra power, making me feel comfortable enough to hit up the Hearthome gym. Now, we kind of have one answer to the trainers, and that's Martian. You see, in Gen 4, Steel still resists the Ghost type, which means that Ghost only has neutral effectiveness on the Bronzor line, and Martian is quite defensive, especially with the Shell Bell to help. Waiting until the daytime again, and using the power of friendship, we can now evolve Nate into a gorgeous Espeon, which is quite the speedy and powerful threat. But its moveset is going to be atrocious until later on, and there's nothing we can do to rectify that. One thing we can do though is go back to Eterna Forest to hit up the old chateau. In here, well, what the f? Well, we have that going on, but also we can grab a crucial TM, Substitute. With tons of theory crafting under my belt, let's challenge the third gym leader, Fantina, the Ghost-type specialist, and her team, oh boy. Her team looks like a complete nightmare, but let's try it out. She leads with a Duskull, and I get Martian out there. She lands the burn on us, and then I hit an extra sensory for maybe a quarter. Not ideal. Shadow Sneak then does little damage as we bring it to a third with our next hit. After she hits us again, I then switch to Hypnosis, which we land to put her to sleep. Nice. Now I make the switch into Phantom as she stays asleep, then I can hit her with Confusion for the KO. Now because Bronzor isn't weak to Ghost, I wanted to get something out there that actually is to bait in the Miss Magius, who I know I needed to be at full health to deal with her Shadow Ball. Problem is, she used Confuse Ray instead. Uh-oh. I have no choice though, so I try to land the Yawn through it, and we get it. Yes, here comes the Shadow Ball now, and it smashes us to a third before our berry. Then, we do land the Confusion, which does hardly anything, but might be needed for the range. The Yawn then puts her to sleep, meaning it's time to activate our plan by getting Karma out there. I know we'll outspeed regardless, so I go for our newly taught Substitute, and she stays asleep. Beautiful. Psybeam now does about half before her berry helps, and she stays asleep, meaning I think we've got her right where we want her. But I use Thief to make sure we don't put her into healing range. Then she wakes up and lands a Shadow Ball to take our Substitute down. We can then outspeed with Psybeam to take her down though, and that leaves her final Pokemon, Haunter, which we also outspeed and which is weak to Psychic, landing us the victory over what looked like an impossible trainer. We did have Bronzor waiting in the back to be switched in an emergency, but I think that was a pretty solid plan overall. Hearthome isn't done with us yet though, as our rival Barry challenges us to battle here. His team is actually quite complicated for us, but I think I have a plan. He leads with an Intimidate Staravia, and I lead with Jean. That way we can trace Intimidate and reflect it right back at him, which actually matters for him as a physical attacker. Nice. He did go for Double Team, but I go for Calm Mind to raise our special stats. We then repeat the same process on the next two turns, knowing I'll need the boost and that we have Magical Leaf, which can't miss if necessary. We do miss Confusion, then lowered attack Wing Attack gets a crit. Are you kidding me? Trace was worthless because of this, and we missed our next attack too. Unbelievable. That was a perfect setup otherwise. I'm forced to switch in Martian now, who, yup, gets crit on the switch as well, and now we have to deal with a huge evasiveness Staravia. Fortunately, with the help of the Shell Bell, Martian's able to eventually whittle him down, although he did use Endeavor on us to bring us to the red before we took him down. Goodness gracious, what a disaster. In comes his Ponyta next, so I switch into our bulkiest Pokemon, Phantom, who, yup, gets crit. Oh boy. For some reason, he started going for Growl and Tail Whip though, so a few confusions did the job. In comes his now evolved starter, Prinplup, and this is a good setup as I can yawn it right off the bat, although Bubble Beam did a fair amount before our berry. Not wanting to get crit again, as that seems to be a pattern here, I get Karma out there and we get hit for nearly half before he goes to sleep. Then Psybeam does over half, so on the next turn we can just outspeed and take him down. His final Pokemon is Roselia, and well, I'll just say it didn't have a very fun time in its debut battle. Up north is a place I've been waiting for desperately, probably the best single location for us, the Solaceon Ruins. Not only does it have a new encounter for us, Unknown, which ends up being an unknown N that I named Legion, but in the very bottom it also has a Mind Plate and an Odd Incense, both of which boost Psychic move power if held. Sweet. More goodies await us on the next route as we pick up the Payback TM, should be great against fellow Psychic types on Martian as it doubles in power if you move after the opponent, and the Fist Plate too to boost Emma's fighting power. And of course, a fighting type trainer tries to battle us with this team that we've got.
Don't try it!
As always, right before the next city, we have a scary double battle, made even scarier by the fact that Drifblim has a massive advantage against us and nearly took Jean out with an ominous wind. But putting Gligar to sleep in order to charge up with Calm Mind definitely saved us. Next up, Veilstone City, the location of the next gym. Before anything, I hit up the department store to pick up some Protect, Reflect, and Light Screen TMs as I think we'll be able to make good use of them. The Game Corner of course has some amazing items and TMs as well, including Psychic, but those things are very expensive, so I'll kinda take them as I go. Let's not forget that the route south of Veilstone is open to us without beating the gym, and through this path we can get to the Valor Lakefront for a new encounter, Girafarig, which would have been real great for the Ghost Gym with the part normal typing, but oh well. I catch him and nickname him Alan, and we'll check him out in the PC shortly. But before that, here, take this technical machine. Oh, no need to tell us what that does, my friend. Don't we have enough experience with that move? Checking out our new catches in the PC, Legion ends up having an Impish plus defense and minus special attack nature, pretty terrible, and Alan has a quirky neutral one. If it wasn't for the Game Corner, I'd likely take the latter with us, but getting the Psychic TM, we can teach it to Nate, who's been kinda useless until now, and gets no Psychic moves whatsoever by level up until level 36, and wouldn't get Psychic until level 64 normally. While training up, we have a powerful evolution as Jean evolves into a majestic Gardevoir. Hey, I see you typing a comment, don't even think about it. Well, the Veilstone Gym is upon us, and as a fighting one, I'm sure you can imagine how the trainers fared against our psychic power. In no time we reached the 4th gym leader, Maylene, and you'd imagine she'd be a pushover, but it was actually kinda hard to account for her Lucario, which isn't weak to psychic, and neither is her Metatite come to think of it. I led with Phantom to knock it out in 2 confusions, and fortunately she missed her Rock Tomb, so we didn't get the speed drop. I think we still would have outsped her Machoke regardless, but after we hit it to a quarter, it also missed its Rock Tomb, so another one did him in. Okay then. In comes the big threat, Lucario. This thing actually does a fair amount of damage with Metal Claw, but afterward we can get off the yawn. Another one brings us to a 3rd before our berry, and then I hit a confusion for very little damage, but it does fall asleep. Here, I can now safely switch in Emma though, but it wakes up and slams us below half with Metal Claw, fortunately no crit, before we can then demolish Lucario with a Fist Plate boosted Pure Power Force Palm, which she just learned at level 29. A much scarier battle than one might expect, but we do get the Drain Punch TM for winning, which should come in handy. Oh no, not this guy again. Hey, follow me into this warehouse.
Hey, you wanna buy a funnel cake?
This reminds me, despite the fact that he points it out, I once forgot to pick up Fly and had to travel from way the hell nowhere to come back and get it on foot. Good times. Speaking of traveling, our travels bring us to Pastoria City where the next gym is, and exploring the mud nearby I found a Dawnstone. Would have been great for a male Curlia, but, well, anyone willing to buy this thing at a premium? Please? Eventually we get to the Backlot Mansion, which is kind of funny because we could get our next encounter here, but that's only after you beat the champion that it shows up, so we'll have to wait a bit longer. Just outside the gym, Barry challenges us again, and I am not making the same mistake that I did last time, so I got the Thunderbolt TM from a long grind at the Game Corner to prepare. Against this Staravia, I send in our now fully evolved Gardevoir and fry that bird out of the skies with a Thunderbolt in one attack. Oh, that's cathartic. His Ponyta then goes down to a 90 power stab based 125 special attack psychic. His Prinplup is of course weak to Thunderbolt as well, but survived on like 1 HP somehow, but then got paralyzed, and Bubble Beam did more than I thought before another one did the job. Again, Rosalia, you're just not the one for this run, I'm sorry. After waiting until he learned Gyro Ball by level up, the move I was referencing when we found out about the minus speed nature, which makes it more powerful, Martian evolves into a Bronzong, a defensive monster. Not only that, but right at the cap, Emma also evolves into a pure power Medicham, which I can't wait to use. The 5th gym leader is up next, Wake, who is often a bit of a challenge to face, but I think I've found a way through him. He leads with an Intimidate Gyarados, perfect to trace it with Gene and intimidate him right back. Then, 4x super effective Thunderbolt decimates him in one hit. In comes Floatzel next, and it outspeeds and lands a super effective Crunch, which brings us all the way to a third before our Berry. Then Thunderbolt knocks it down as well. That was definitely the biggest threat though, and we just had to dodge a crit there, as his final Pokemon, Quagsire, is 4x weak to grass, and I made sure to keep Magical Leaf just for this moment, as it gets us the 5th badge in style. Jean, you powerhouse, she had perfect coverage there. You know, it just occurred to me, the Safari Zones really haven't had much luck. The Kanto one was shut down, the Hoenn one was effectively shut down in Oras and made an unsupervised wild area, Johto could only afford to build theirs in the middle of nowhere, and the Sinnoh one in Pastoria gets bombed. Not the ideal business model, is it? After forgetting that a mere Galactic Grunt's Krogunk would have Sucker Punch and nearly losing Jean because of it, we at least get to meet back up with Cynthia. Except Barry effectively ruined our chances with his tomfoolery. Okay, I don't think I've ever used that word before, but it certainly fits. And talk about tomfoolery, I nearly forgot to hit up the move tutor on the route nearby, as we can teach both Medicham and Bronzong the physical Zen Headbutt move. Wicked. There, take the medicine, you fools. Oh, not again. Why always in these awkward situations? Wow, the way you poisoned all those Psyducks was so hot. Oh damn, do I ever wish I could use defog in Canada. These forest fires have been wild lately. At the end of Route 210 stands an amazing TM for us, Shadow Ball, which should provide some great coverage against troublesome ghost types. Arriving in Celestic Town has us reach the house with the guy who gives you the black glasses, but more importantly, he will also give us the choice specs later in the day, which is huge. While on a secret date with Cynthia's grandma in the ruins, Cyrus rudely interrupts, so we have to show him what's good. He leads with a Pokemon that would normally be a gigantic threat for us, Sneasel, but I send in our newly evolved Bronzong, who tanks an Ice Punch with ease and responds with a massive powered Gyro Ball to shatter that thing. Seriously, the speed differential must have made that power insane. In comes Golbat next, and Bite hardly does anything before Zen Headbutt smashes him to the red. He then Hyper Potions, so we repeat that again, getting full health from Shell Bell. Then he misses Supersonic and gets taken down by another. Oh, Cynthia's grandma's gonna be so impressed with me. His final Pokemon is another big threat, Murkrow, but again, Marshall is a great answer, smashing it with a few Gyro Balls for the KO, being brought to the red by Nightshades along the way, but since they do set damage, I knew we were safe. With the Surf HM now in hand, we can finally head back to Route 218 to get our final encounter, a Mr. Mime, which I catch and name Doctor, and who ends up having a docile neutral nature. Mr. Mime doesn't really offer anything our team doesn't already have at this point, so I'll box him for now. Upon arrival in Candlelape City, I realize there is a big threat upcoming, so I decide to add Alan the Giraffrig to our team since he's faster and more defensive than a lot of what we're working with. That's right, on the bridge we have another Berry battle, and this time he's got some crazy evolutions and new encounters. Barry leads with his now fully evolved Staraptor, and I get Alan out there. Incredibly, we outspeed and hit it with Thunderbolt and get the one-hit KO right from the get-go. A good start. Then, in comes what I feared most, Heracross, which could devastate us, but I land a Psychic, and he somehow survives on like 1 HP and lands a Night Slash, but no crit. Sheesh. Then, I was like, he'll definitely heal here, so I might as well take the opportunity to raise our speed for later on with Agility, but forgot that he doesn't have any heals in this battle, so we get hit again, and no crit again, so we survive on 30 HP before then taking him down for good. Now that was a bad mistake. In comes Rapidash, and now I can baton pass our agility to Jean, who proceeds to demolish Rapidash in a couple of psychics. Empoleon survived a Thunderbolt and hit us down to 14 HP before another did him in, and finally his now evolved Roserade gave us a break as always. Okay, that was way more disastrous than it should have been. Those ranges were unreal. The Candlelape Gym is next, and I came up with something cool, getting the wide lens from the game corner to increase the accuracy of both high jump kick and Zen headbutt. And amazingly, Emma savagely knocks down even something as defensive as Steelix with one physical move. Guess they weren't lying when they said pure power, huh? The 6th gym leader is Byron, the steel type specialist, and I'm not gonna lie, a high jump kick with no drawbacks now thanks to wide lens is insane, knocking out all 3 of his Pokemon instantaneously. I'm very glad that Sturdy didn't work how it does nowadays, but I'm starting to get ideas in my head about a potential deathless run here. With 6 badges in hand, I now allow us to trade evolve Karma into an Alakazam, increasing the powerhouse nature of our team even further. In the Lake Valor Cavern, we encounter a new galactic commander, Saturn, and I got to test out our fully evolved Karma, who annihilated Golbat, and I stubbornly took down Bronzor with her for the hell of it. Then, it's very good news I found out Toxicroak doesn't have Sucker Punch, so it couldn't pose a threat at all either. Not only that, but we get to teach Commander Mars a lesson with Emma, who is definitely more effective against Bronzor, and is the perfect counter to her dreadful Perugly, even though it crit us with Fake Out unexpectedly and was a bit dangerous with Slash, because for some reason I thought it had Pursuit instead of Feint Attack for a second, so I thought I couldn't switch. Good riddance either way. Rowan saying, "What has happened to Barry? Is he safe?" reminds me so much of...
Where is Padme? Is she alright?
At the bottom of Mount Coronet, we find the Light Clay to extend the duration of Reflect and Light Screen, should be very useful. Then we make our way through the long trek of the snowy routes of 216 and 217. In one of the houses, we get the spell tag to boost ghost moves, and after nearly losing Alan to a damn Sea King of all things, we arrive in Snowpoint City. Aside from the puzzle, the gym wasn't too much of a problem, with Emma certainly being effective against ice types. The 7th gym leader is Candace, the ice specialist, and it took me a while of theory crafting for her actually, as our Bronzong has heat-proof, not levitate, so it would be the perfect answer were it not for her Piloswine. But the answer eventually came to me. She leads with a Sneasel, also a bit of a problem, and I get Martian out there to start, and Feint Attack does very little against us. Then I get up the 8-turn Light Screen. After getting hit again, I nail her with Gyro Ball for the KO, and in comes Piloswine next as expected. Here I switch into Emma as she went for Avalanche, not Earthquake weirdly enough, but I'll take it, as now I had taught Emma Drain Punch so we get all of our health back too. Let's go. In comes Frostlass next, and here's the key. I taught Emma Fire Punch from the Shard move tutor, but not only that, Frostlass using Double Team isn't as bad, as we have the wide lens to help, and we baited out the Ghost type using Emma so that Abomasnow's Hail wouldn't be in effect and activate Frostlass's Snow Cloak. Too good. She did survive on like 1 HP though before her berry, but I knew we could tank Shadow Ball anyway now that we healed with Drain Punch, so another does her in. Her final Pokemon is Abomasnow, which of course succumbs to a Pure Power 4x super effective Fire Punch for the victory. I was pretty proud of that strat, it worked out well. By any chance, do you have a Pokemon named Medicham? Oh, I sure do. But I'm not gonna give it to some scam artist.
No!
Alright, after our last run, the Randomizer and Omega Ruby, I have some unfinished business in the Snowpoint Temple with Regigigas.
Let me in!
In the Galactic HQ building, we get to the top where Cyrus awaits for another battle. And the main problem with him is that his team is incredibly fast. However, I noticed that his Sneasel didn't have any dark moves, so I led with Alan. This way, I could use Agility and then hit him with Thunderbolt before getting brought to the red by Ice Punch after he had lowered our defense. Here, since we outspeed now, I can baton pass the boost to Jean, who tanks Ice Punch on just 15 HP. But gets frozen too! Why is this happening? I have no choice now, so I go into Martian, who can finish him off with a Gyro Ball. His Crobat then kept trying to pin us down with Bite, but Zen Headbutt did huge damage on him, so we took him down with over half health remaining. His final Pokemon is his now fully evolved Honchkrow, and I need the damage, so I go for Gyro Ball as he hits a Nightshade. Needing to switch, and knowing he'd likely try it again, I take the risk and switch in Emma, and thankfully he did, no Drill Peck, so we can outspeed with the neutral high jump kick to finish off the battle. Oh, close one. Oh, would you look at that, a Razor Claw left in his abandoned office. You do realize you can evolve your Sneasel with this, right? Moving on ahead, we make it to the final room, and ooh, the legendary trio. All psychic types too. Can we use these, please? Well, that didn't go over so well as Saturn challenges us to battle, and finally I found a good use for Nate here, as we could not only eviscerate his Golbat with Psychic, but also use neutral Shadow Ball I taught him against Bronzor, and finally destroy his Toxicroak with Psychic since it didn't have Sucker Punch again. Good job, Nate. I'm proud of you. Making the perilous climb up Mount Coronet, we run into that weirdo dude again, and he's like, "All I can give you is this." Then gives us a black flute item to rescue humanity with.
Okay.
At the top of Mount Coronet, we arrive at Spear Pillar, where we're challenged to a double battle by Commander Mars and Jupiter. Given their Bronzors with Light Screen and Reflect, Golbats with Confuse Ray and Mean Look, and of course a damn Night Slash Skuntank and a Purugly, this is a tough one. But essentially what I did was get Reflect up on our side with Light Clay, then switch into Emma. From here, I tried to control the variables as best I could, waiting for their screens to go down before taking them down, then baiting Skuntank in so I could high jump kick it as soon as possible, but it did survive, although with Light Screen up, Golbat's Air Cutter didn't do much. I knew Barry's Intimidate Staraptor would come in though, so I brought Golbat down with Zen Headbutt to get Purugly out there, but Emma got burned by Flamethrower, crushing my plans. However, since our Bronzong is heat-proof, I could bring him back out to tank the next one, completely walling Purugly in the process, so we could engage in a battle of attrition to take both of them down, leaving the second Golbat for last to be taken down in a Zen Headbutt. That worked out a bit better than I thought it would, considering the unfortunate burn. Cyrus then awakens all three of the major legendaries like a complete madman, and oh hey look, the Psychic Trio did technically join our team after all. Whoa. Okay, I should not have had those tiny mushrooms that guy offered me. At the end of our literal and metaphorical trip, we arrive at the final Cyrus battle, and boy oh boy was this ever a theory crafting nightmare. But eventually, I arrived at a plot to destroy him by baiting the order in which he sends his Pokemon out. He leads with a devastating threat, Houndoom, but I get Alan out there. Looks terrifying, I know, but I had gotten another Colbur Berry to tank Dark Pulse below half, then used Agility. And my plan actually worked this time, as we now outspeed with Baton Pass to give the speed to Emma, who eats up a Dark Pulse and responds with a super effective Pure Power Drain Punch to KO and get our health back. Wicked. Honchkrow then comes out, normally a huge threat again, but I had move tutored Thunder Punch onto Emma for the instant KO. This then baits in Crobat, and it's not often you see Crobat get outsped, but Zen Headbutt does the job here. His Gyarados then comes in with Intimidate, but I knew he'd come in near the end due to Cyrus's type coverage on his team, and with Pure Power we still have enough juice to KO him with the 4 times damage. His final Pokemon is Weavile, and well, it did out-prioritize us with Fake Out, but yep, we outspeed from there with 4 times damage high jump kick through Intimidate to win the battle. Epic. That's all I'm gonna say. Following that, we have a truly horrifying encounter with Giratina, a part Ghost-type legendary that we have to battle. Fortunately, Martian isn't weak to him and resists Dragon too, so I confused him with Confuse Ray, got up to Reflect too, hit him with a couple Gyro Balls, then on his Phantom Force turn, I knew I could switch into Alan, who's part Normal type, and therefore immune, then could nail him with the final 2 Psychics to win the battle. Savage. The final major city is upon us, Sunnyshore, quite a beautiful place. Of course, our gym leader Volkner is invincible in every way.
Are you sure about that?
After getting seals on all our Pokeballs so we can win in style, it's time for the 8th gym leader, Volkner. And I struggled with this one in terms of planning until I realized, you know what? Packing the choice specs on a max special attack Alakazam might just be the answer. And indeed it was, outspeeding everything on his team, even Jolteon, and one-hit KOing every single one of them with a Choice Specs boosted Stab 90 Power Psychic from a base 135 special attack Pokemon. Karma, you legend. Interrupting one of our dates yet again, I see, Barry. Don't you have somewhere to be? Leaving our beloved Jasmine behind, we make our way through the perilous Victory Road, which was relatively uneventful now that we've fulfilled most of our team's true potential. Eventually, we arrive at our final destination, the Sinnoh Region Pokemon League. Before we take it on though, we have a final battle with Barry. Thanks to the new level cap, we can overlevel him a bit, and we can use our same gene strategy to take down his Staraptor, which then baits in his Heracross. Perfectly fine, as we can now outspeed and avoid its devastating Megahorn by KOing it with Psychic. The same then goes for his Roserade. Then in comes his bulky Snorlax with Crunch, so I switch into Emma, who it's not super effective on. Unfortunately, he did get the defense drop, but one high jump kick defeats that overgrown monster. Knowing Rapidash has bounce and that we wouldn't outspeed, I then switch into Gene. With him outspeeding, I know I can take the opportunity to use Calm Mind to power up a couple of times, getting burned and brought to a 3rd in the process, but it's all worth it as now we can take it down with Psychic, then with a +3 Thunderbolt can take down an even bigger threat, Empoleon, with little health remaining. With that victory, we've now earned the right to move on, and after fulfilling the rest of our EVs and getting any remaining items and TMs we need, it's time to take on the Elite Four. The first Elite Four member is Aaron, and it just has to be a bug trainer, doesn't it? I'm sure you can imagine it took some serious thinking, but I think I know what the answer is. He leads with a Yanmega and I lead with Gene, who traces his speed boost. Because it's the first turn, we still outspeed him and Thunderbolt is an instant KO on it. Unfortunately, we won't be able to keep speed boost though, as in comes a Scizor. For it, I switch into Emma, neutral to Bug, so we can tank an X-Scissor and respond with a 4x super effective Fire Punch KO. Then, in comes Drapion, our worst nightmare, but I know he'll go for Aerial Ace, so I switch in Martian to predict it. Then I can get the Reflect up, as he has nothing for a Psychic and Steel type, and only taking a quarter damage, I can start responding with Earthquake, which takes him down in 2 hits after his Barrier activated. Another huge threat comes out in the form of Heracross, and I was debating whether he'd use Close Combat or Megahorn, as they've got the same power, so I realize it's too risky to switch out. And thank God I didn't, as he did go for Megahorn. Zen Headbutt then surprisingly takes him out in 1 hit, although we could have taken another non-crit. His final Pokemon is Vespiquen, and knowing we could tank 1 attack, I switch into Gene, although he just went for Defend Order, so I hit him regardless, and he survives a Thunderbolt, but then just uses it again like an idiot so we can KO and win the battle with a second. Well, a deathless run through the Bug Expert is not what I was expecting, but we played pretty well, I think. Up next is Bertha, the Ground-type expert, and she has caused us a lot of problems in the past and does have one big common weakness. She leads with a Whiscash and I get Karma out there. Looks weird, I know, but I had taught her the Grass Knot TM and, you guessed it, put the choice specs on her, absolutely obliterating it, her Hippowdon since it's so heavy, Rhyperior of course being quad weak to it, then in comes Gliscor. Now, I know our whole team couldn't do much against it, so with massive power I go for Grass Knot regardless, hoping for the 2-hit KO, and it does like exactly half, and I knew we could survive 1 non-crit Earthquake, and thankfully no crit. The sand brings us low, but it looks like we can survive 1 more hit of it, so I go for the long shot Grass Knot again, and we get the range. Oh man. Then, on just 9 HP, we can decimate her final Pokemon, Golem, and win the battle with, okay, not a clean sweep necessarily, but definitely a sweep. Next up, Flint, the Fire-type expert, and there's only one strat that's gonna work here, and it's a classic. He leads with a Houndoom, and I get Alan out there. Knowing we only had to fear the flinch as I go for agility, but we outspeed it anyway somehow. It did go for Sunny Day though, which is scary as a boosted flamethrower would destroy us, but I know he'll go for the type coverage instead, so I baton passed the agility to Emma, and my assumptions were correct. From there, I kid you not, Emma then proceeded to Drain Punch Houndoom to recover health to the max, then High Jump Kick or Zen Headbutt sweep every single one of his remaining Pokemon. The last Elite Four member is Lucian, our Psychic-type arch-nemesis with a brutal team setup against us. There was only one answer for this too, leading with Nate with the choice specs attached, making sure to KO Mr. Mime immediately before it could set up any screens. With max special attack, Nate was then able to KO his own Espeon and Alakazam. Then against his Bronzong, I stayed in to hit him just below half, although he did use Calm Mind next. I knew we'd likely activate his full restore here, but I have no choice due to the, well, choice specs. Then Gyro Ball slams us to the red on just 28 HP. However, we did get the special defense drop on him, so I knew we'd have enough power to take him down, and we did get a crit anyway, just for extra insurance. His final Pokemon is Gallade, and knowing we don't have enough power, I switch into Martian, who can eat up most of what he has, and get up the Reflect. He did bring us below half with Drain Punch before one Zen Headbutt did decent damage on him, and with Reflect up, we're tanking attacks well and not letting him get much recovery, so I actually kept Martian out there, and a few more attacks did the job with us at 30 HP in the red. Wow. Guess we are the Psychic Masters now. Well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. It's time. The final battle, the champion of the Sinnoh region, Cynthia, and her team, well, do I have to say anything? It's utterly terrifying. I theory crafted for a hell of a long time and, well, let's just say a prayer and go for it after using the rest of our rare candies. She leads with a Ghost and Dark-type Spiritomb of all things, of course, and I know the only thing that's surviving this is Martian. Now, Martian definitely could have handled this thing, and we did get Light Screen up for us to help even further, but believe me when I tell you that she Dark Pulse flinched us 4 times in a row. Yup, No words. My whole plan is shot now as we only landed one mere earthquake. Realizing how hopeless this is, I stay in thinking we still have a range on it, and yup, we survive on 5 HP before hitting it again. Whoa. Well, evidently she's using Dark Pulse repeatedly, so I switch into Emma hoping she keeps doing so, and she does. Whew. So a Fire Punch from there takes her down. In comes Togekiss next, so I have to switch into Jean, who tanks an Air Slash reasonably well and can respond with a Thunderbolt for over half. Another brings us to a quarter, but we can outspeed and land another one to take it down. Next up, Lucario. And I realized at this low health it'll likely go for extreme speed, so I switch into Nate, who has the choice specs on, and we tank it over half. Psychic is a very close range here, and we don't get the KO, but we do get the special defense drop. I thought it was over here, but miraculously we survive Shadow Ball on just 9 HP. Then I realized she's gonna full restore here, isn't she? And we got the special defense drop, so in theory, yup, Psychic now one-hit KOs. Incredible. But then, in comes the threat of all threats, Garchomp. And there's nothing I could do here. If we had a Levitate Bronzong that hadn't gotten flinched 4 times in a row, yeah, maybe, but we have nothing, so I go for Psychic here, and we get a critical hit to wipe it off the map. No way! Nate, you are a god. But the celebration does not last long, as in comes Milotic, a specially defensive powerhouse. After a lot of thinking, I switch into Alan, who gets hit by Ice Beam and tanks it relatively well, but I know a Surf will KO from this range. I have no choice though, as nothing can take 2 attacks with us having very little Pokemon choices left, so I hit a Thunderbolt, and Alan gets taken down as our first death of the run. I really saw no way around this though, with only 2 full health Pokemon left, so from here I send in Karma to give her the sweet justice that she deserves, as Grass Knot ends up just barely not KOing on like 1 HP. Surf then hits us to a 3rd, but I know she'll heal, so then I can hit 2 more in a row to KO her. Then, in true Berry fashion, her last Pokemon is a Roserade, which Karma delivers a fatal blow to win us the championship. Wow. Well, we did it. We beat a Hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Platinum with only Psychic types, and damn, powerful they are indeed, but frail as hell too. I've got to give the MVPs to Emma the Medicham and Bronzong, whose power and typing respectively made this run possible. But also shout out to Comet the Solrock, who came in clutch in his own way. As always, make sure to subscribe to join the Self Army and get us to 250,000, and I'll see you guys next time for another challenge video.